Hi, I'm Hugh Clark. Welcome and thank you for listening to The Real Agenda, the podcast for political change. As part of our Challenges for Change series, I'll be talking today with an ambitious and energetic entrepreneur, but also campaigner and game changer, trying to make a real difference to the lives of some of the most disadvantaged people in society, the homeless. We recently met up with Big House CEO and founder, Paolo Casamassima. By the way, that's Big House, Bighous, without an E. Big House is a social impact housing business aiming to help the disadvantaged and most vulnerable of our society and tackle homelessness. Paolo has an MBA and is currently studying another Master's in Entrepreneurship. And through his work with Big House, with over a decade of experience in the financial services industry behind him, Paolo is the head of global market intelligence at a leading investor relations firm in London. He is also author of I'll Get That Job, a book on modern job hunting and interview techniques. So I started out by asking him why homelessness is growing in the UK.
Well, I think there are two main problems. First of all, the usual housing crisis that we always hear in the news. There isn't enough homes, there isn't enough homes being built, and there isn't enough affordable homes. So a lot of people, even if they work, can't afford rent. And those that are on benefits, the benefit doesn't cover the market rate rent. The second problem, I think, is that with the evolution of society, we're going towards a world where countries like the UK tend to outsource a lot of jobs. Those that would be office jobs, data entry jobs, receptionist jobs. All those jobs tend to be outsourced to a third world country, or they tend to be automated by a machine, by some program. So ultimately that reduces the amount of jobs available and increases the competition for those jobs. I have seen and witnessed a lot of people that have been looking for a job for several months, and there are 20 or 30 applicants per job. And I've seen in my experience, in my professional experience in the financial services industry, I've seen jobs being cut in the UK and sent to South Africa. I've seen in some companies jobs are cut and they are sent to India. In the Philippines, I've been there helping to grow an office in one of the companies I worked for. An office from 10 grew to 50 people in a space of a couple of years, and all those 50 people in the Philippines are doing the jobs that were previously being done in the UK, which result in a great cost-cutting exercise and good profits for the company and creation of jobs in a developing country. But obviously jobs are shifted elsewhere, and they will no longer appear in the UK, because once these jobs are gone, they're not coming back.
So we end up in a society with people on lower wages as well due to this.
Correct.
And then you end up with the working poor that can't afford to have a decent place to live.
Correct. Correct.
What can we do individually and as a society to help?
Well, first of all, I think, as you probably know, I tend to stop by and speak to a lot of homeless people almost on a daily basis, and through the work of Big House I'm more inclined than the normal person to do so. A lot of these people, they haven't spoken to anyone for days. They maybe have been begging for £25 for a whole day, trying to raise money for a shelter in the evening, just so that they can take a shower and get some shelter. A lot of us just don't pay attention to homeless people, but we don't realize that actually a lot of us, we're just 3 or 4 paychecks away from being homeless, because a lot of people don't have any savings. So if for any reason, let's say you lose your job, or you might just be evicted by your landlord for any reason, because maybe he's selling his property and you need to find another property, you don't find it quickly enough, you might end up homeless. So this could happen to anyone. It could happen to you, it could happen to me, it could happen to our children, it could happen to our brothers and sisters. And effectively these people are just human beings, and a lot of them just need a bit of help because they're a bit lost.
So it's about saying hello, it's about acknowledging people. When you see people that are homeless, it's about acknowledging them.
Yes.
I think that probably makes a big difference as well, doesn't it?
What would you like our politicians to do?
What aren't they doing at the moment?
I have tried to look into government fundings and ways to grow the social housing business that we are trying to build. And I think it's extremely difficult to navigate through all the requirements, through the government websites. Every council is different as well, so if you're helping in a particular region, what would work in one region doesn't work in another region. Also, I think that looking particularly at the housing problem, I think the housing problem has gotten worse because of the universal credit and how it's been set up. So a lot of currently homeless people, they had a place and for a reason or another haven't been able to pay the rent because maybe the universal credit hasn't come on time, or they might have missed an appointment, or simply they have spent it on drugs because the money go to them and they don't go to the landlord. The few landlords, like myself, that are willing to take the risk and house the vulnerable people, they are no longer willing to do because it's very risky. You don't know if you're getting paid at the end of the month. In one of our properties, in one of our block of flats, we have 7 vulnerable people, and every month we don't know at what time, what day, and what week we are getting the rent and how much rent we are getting because the universal credit system is unfortunately messed up. So we've made an investment trying to help people. We are helping in this block of flats 10 people in total, 6 and a family of 3 with 1 or 2 children, I can't recall. But sometimes we get paid to a certain amount, sometimes we get paid 60% of that amount, which ultimately increases the risk for us as a business.
With Brexit looming and the uncertainty felt behind the financial sector, do you see things getting better for people on the streets?
I've seen a sign on the metro from the Conservatives saying that they will cut homeless people in half by 2025, I believe. I'm not sure how, but I would be very interested in knowing what's their plans, and if there is a way, well then great. The first statement, it's a very good beginning. Let's see it in facts.
Government needs to be held accountable.
Definitely. Well, it's been said, let's see if they do it and how they do it.
Let's talk a little bit about Big House
Yes.
and what you do. When did you get started and why did you want to start this project?
Since I was 5 or 6 years old, I've seen my uncle helping the homeless people in Italy, in my hometown, and I was kind of inspired by this. I have then been sent to work in South Africa in a certain period of my life, and I've experienced extreme poverty in Cape Town, and I've tried to help the homeless in Cape Town. And at some stage I have, first of all, realized that homelessness was growing in the UK. Second, I've always tried to help charities. I sponsor 6 kids, for example, in developing countries, but I wanted to do more in the UK as well because I saw the issue was growing. So I just Googled one day real estate and charity. I'm passionate about real estate and I'm passionate about charity, and I discovered the social housing sector. I've discovered how charities try to help the homeless, providing properties, and I decided to get my hands dirty. So I bought a building that was let to vulnerable people, a combination of people with mental illness and former homeless people. And then from there I tried to grow the venture with a combination of personal funding, private funding, getting help from family, friends and other philanthropists.
So what are Big House's current projects and goals?
Well, ideally, we want to help 250 people every year. Well, as a matter of fact, we want to grow our portfolio, providing shelter to 250 extra people every year, which still, it's a tiny drop if you think that in the UK there is 1.2 million people on waiting lists for social housing and over 300,000 homeless people. But it's a beginning. We are raising money to buy 2 or 3 different portfolios in different towns that would help over 100 homeless people in partnership with 4 or 5 different charities that are willing to back up Big House, not financially, but just in terms of as a partnership. Usually that would mean we provide the property, they provide the assistance and all the support that these people need to go back into having a normal life.
So you will buy a house and subsequently move homeless people in there, and do you just leave them there, or what happens?
Well, so we first try to buy a distressed property, because although we always discuss that there is a homelessness crisis and not enough properties are being built, but actually there is plenty of empty homes across the UK. So we try to buy these empty homes, which are often sold at auction. We obviously would buy at a much lower cost compared to a new build. We then refurbish the property, so we make them almost new. We do a complete scheme of refurbishment, which includes rewiring, replastering, new bathroom, new toilet, new carpet, new paint. And then we lease it to a charity, and the charity will provide for their vulnerable tenants. So the charity will look through their database, and they will have clients that are homeless, clients that are disabled, clients that are having another problem, and they will let the property to them, effectively sublet the property, and they will help us with the rental collection. They will help the former homeless or vulnerable person getting all the support they need, which could be mental support, it could be getting their benefits paid, looking for a job, building some basic skills that will enable them to go back into the society.
You were saying, obviously, all these things are possible, but we're now in London, and knowing the price of land in London, it seems very, very difficult to help people in London. So are there specific regions in the UK that you focus on, and why those regions?
Well, as a matter of fact, we are currently trying to focus everywhere but London, because due to the limited funding available to us and the cost of properties in London, it's I think our business model at present it's impossible in London. Our idea is to buy in different towns of the UK where property prices are much lower, and build a balanced portfolio where we can have maybe a high yield in a city like Liverpool and a lower yield in a city like London or Cambridge. And we try to make an average yield across the various towns, which could be a 7 or 8%, which is a good return for an investor as well.
That's very good, isn't it?
It's very good. So if you think the banks pay less than 1% for your savings, 7 or 8% is a very good. Unfortunately, a lot of investors are just looking for what we call unicorns. So you're looking for 10 times returns and not a 10% return or 8% return. A lot of people are willing to invest £1,000 and make £10,000 in 2 or 3 years, as opposed to making a steady income.
So that's a tricky part of your business plan, I'm assuming.
It is very tricky. It is very tricky because, first of all, we are still small, so we're considered a startup, and a lot of people don't trust startups because they always think you're going to go belly up very soon. A lot of people don't trust what we do because we're helping vulnerable people, and they just associate what we do with negativity and helping people that, according to some, shouldn't be helped because they are in that situation because of who they are. I mean, we're trying to help people and we're trying to provide a return, but effectively we need to build mass, critical mass, so that we reach a level where we are going to be very profitable and we're going to make good returns for investors. So we need patient capital that is willing to patiently listen to what we're building. They will be supportive in the first 2 years of our operations, where we try to grow, and then they will have a good income for the next years.
So what makes Big House different to other companies building social housing who also help the homeless?
Okay, first of all, there isn't many companies like us in general. I think one of the few things that we do is that we partner with charities that are helping the most destitute of our society. So a lot of social housing businesses are not necessarily helping the most destitute. They will be helping people that are on waiting lists for social housing in the council, and maybe they have temporary accommodation, but we're trying to help the lower level of the society, those that are already homeless or those that have severe mental or physical disabilities that make their search for a house extremely difficult and will result in often being homeless. Second, what we try to do is to provide good properties. because all the properties that we provide they are not new built, but they are new in the sense that they are being fully refurbished. So they are clean, they are modern, they have new carpets, they have painted walls, they have a functioning kitchen, they have a functioning shower, they have hot water, and a lot of the social houses that are provided by the councils or landlords that call themselves social landlords, they're actually, what's the word? You're British. Slums or... but I mean, effectively, they are properties that are just extremely dirty, derelict, and nobody wouldn't want to live in them, and they let them to the desperate people.
So how many flats are you currently letting out? How many people are there in the typical building?
Well, we have a combination of things. So we have the large 9-bedroom property where you have a mix of vulnerable people and people that are now back into normal life. And then we have the smaller shelter, which is usually a 3-bed, where you have people that have been homeless and they've been through a large shelter and they're now considered to be almost independent, so they go to live into a smaller shelter and they start to have a bit more privacy. And then after that, the next stage is called move on. Move on is where the former homeless or vulnerable person will go and live in a 1-bedroom flat, and after a few months charity will stop the support and it will be up to them to be fully independent and be able to pay the rent and look after themselves.
So it's about helping people back into society.
Correct. To answer your question, we have at the moment 21 properties with 51 bed space. So we're helping in total 51 properties. Well, in fact, we're helping at the moment 48, and we just bought a property that we are refurbishing at the moment, so it will be 51 in the next couple of months. If we are able to buy the large portfolio that we are trying to buy, for which, however, we require about $500,000 that we are missing. But if we are able to buy that, we will be helping an additional 73 people. So we will go from 51 to 124.
And this isn't only in the short term, is it? It's a project that's going to be lasting.
Yes,
that's what you
definitely.
really want to do.
I mean, these people are unlikely a person that has been homeless or living in temporary accommodation will want to go through the process of looking for another property, or it's unlikely they will do anything to lose their property. So, I mean, ultimately what I have experienced is that the former homeless or the vulnerable person treats properties much better than a normal tenant that maybe works in a bank or works in or maybe a student that regularly trashes properties. So I mean, these people really take pride of what they have achieved and of their property and make it theirs, and they pay the rent.
That's very important, obviously.
It's very important.
Because your company, Big House, is a for-profit company.
It's for profit. As a matter of fact, there are a lot of charities that actually are running on very low cost and struggling to stay alive because they are non-for-profit. And I've seen, in particular, I was helping one charity that went bankrupt, desperately trying to raise money, spending their last money on a lavish fundraising dinner, which didn't fundraise enough for them to stay alive, and they went bust in the next 6 months. A for-profit business, on the other hand, can always raise money because the money will be making a profit, or will at least have to try to make a profit. So in our case, we try to make an 8 or 10% profit on the money that we raise. So potentially we can continue to grow, and we can continue to buy properties, and we can continue to supply more and more homeless people until the problem is solved, and maybe then tackle the next problem that we might have in the society. Obviously, what you need to consider is that these people very often don't just want to have a house, they want to work. So we try to put these people back into work, sometimes through the help of the charities, but also we ourselves have trained 1 or 2 people into building jobs, so bricklayers or electricians, because these people have skills, and they might already have a skill which unfortunately through being homeless hasn't been used. So at the moment I'm trying to help 2 people in Cambridge One person is on a wheelchair and another person is helping this woman. They've met together through their homelessness journey, and he's a former plumber. He has been homeless for 10 years, but he was a plumber before becoming homeless. And if we are able to put him back into a property, it's very likely that he's also going to go back into work and being a plumber. And if we grow, maybe he's going to be a plumber from a big house.
It sounds like you've already answered my next question here, Paolo. So when you look at the UK and its efforts to fight homelessness right now, where do you find your optimism? I mean, it sounds like it's just one of the other stories that feed your optimism, that feed your will.
Where do I find my optimism? It's hard to say, but when I meet these people and I know that I've helped, sometimes I feel that just by speaking to them I've changed their lives because they haven't spoken to anyone. I've done a video in Cambridge. It was the first time I filmed a homeless person. I was so touched by the story of this woman that through being homeless caught a virus and became disabled on a wheelchair. And this person hadn't spoken with anyone non-homeless for quite a long time, and at the end of it she was almost a completely different person. And I was speaking to her before we met, if you remember, and she's now all pumped up and she's going to the Cambridge Council today and try to get enrolled in the process to get a property, and she has given Big House name as a potential social housing provider that will help her. She has given Big House name so that we can access her data and we can try to help her to raise money for a disabled property for her.
Well, thank you very much, Paolo. Thank you for sharing your story with the Real Agenda audience today. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, and we wish you the very best in helping many more people off the street.
Thank you very much, you.
However, before we end the show, so this is the recording of Simone. You can watch the full clip on realagendaradio.org. It is touching, and unfortunately it's only one of a million other stories out there. So thank you for listening. Do make sure to subscribe to our podcast, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Simone Michael. I am in Cambridge. I've met this gentleman, Paolo. Basically, I have not eaten for 2 days, and as well as giving me some money to get myself some shelter this evening. It took me to McDonald's and got me some food. Even though he basically has helped a lot of people out this evening, I'm doing this interview because I would like to raise awareness of the cause of the homeless. I'm 40 years old, I have 6 kids, and basically I became homeless because my relationship broke down. I came to Cambridge to stay with a friend who studied here, and when I got here the address didn't exist, the phone number didn't exist, and I kind of just sat on the pavement and cried. I had no way of getting anywhere, and that was me becoming homeless at a very, old age in my life. It wasn't great. When I first came here, I was an able-bodied woman, an able-bodied, independent woman. I'm now in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. Things have been difficult, as there isn't a lot to help the homeless, there isn't enough facilities, there isn't enough awareness. A lot of us stay on the streets too long, and I caught a lot of infections. I caught streptococcus aureus, which crushed my spine, and I had it in my lungs as well. As long as having a bone infection, a blood infection, and I was pronounced dead. I was actually pronounced dead. But somewhere along the lines, God saved me. And as the doctor put the phone down, he heard a cough and it was me. I'd come round after being pronounced dead. So I was given a temporary flat, a temporary disabled flat, but my immune system was rough. My immune system was down. I caught another infection just from, dust particles in the house or outside. And while I was in hospital, they took my flat off me. Said technically I wasn't homeless. And then I came out and had to sleep in toilets. And I caught meningitis in my spine. Now I'm homeless and in a wheelchair. And, I don't let it define who I am. I get up each day and I do my makeup, and I try to make sure I've got clean clothes, and I try to make sure I put a smile on my face and remember who I am, remember who I was, and to never forget who I am. Because what people need to remember is we're humans, you know, we are human beings, and sometimes just coming past and saying hello and asking if we're okay is just all we need, you know. And just if people just make us aware that, you know, there are some homeless people that are not nice, but the majority of us are just broken, lost souls that just need a bit of help finding our way. And with people like yourself, Pablo, I'm surely hope we do find our way. And I thank you for your help this evening, and I thank you for your help and what you're doing for the homeless.
Thank you.
You know, at the end of the day, there isn't enough people like yourself, but hopefully, as it gets on, we can make it aware that this situation is becoming increasingly more, you know, it's more people are becoming homeless, you know, and, you know, we need to look after each other. Come on, guys, we're human beings, you know, you don't see animals treating their young like we do, so let's just wake up and open our eyes and just remember, you know what, we're human. You're not any better than me, and I'm not any better than you. You're just the same. The only difference is you've got a house and I don't. But you know what, I'll still carry on and I'll still keep smiling, and I will do something for the homeless. I will get these businesses to do what I want them to do, and I will make sure we get housed. And along with people like yourself, I really hope that happens. You know, and I'm so glad I met you this evening.
Thank you.
And I hope that, you know, you just don't waver. Just keep going, because, you know, I think you will do good.
That's The Real Agenda. I'm Hugh Clark. Thanks for listening. Look forward to talking to you soon.